Okay, good morning. It is Thursday, January 14th, a few minutes after 9 a.m., and I'm calling to order this first meeting of the Westboro Affordable Housing Trust. This meeting is being conducted by remote participation, so I will diligently read the governor's orders related to that and review the agenda, and we will get going here. And once I'm done with the agenda, I'll welcome everyone, and we'll go around the trustees and have everyone introduce themselves. So to start with, pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Westboro Affordable Housing Trust will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Westboro's website at town.westboro.ma.us. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so in the following manner via Westboro TV broadcast, simulcast, and live streaming. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time by technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Town of Westboro's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. And with that said, I want to welcome everyone to our first meeting. I'm glad we are all here today, and so what I'd like to do is I'll start, but we'll go around and have everyone introduce themselves, who they are, why they joined, stepped up to volunteer to serve as a trustee. If you've participated in other town boards and committees, whether or not they're directly related to affordable housing, love to hear that as well. And so I'll start. I'm Alan Edinburgh. I am a member of the Board of Selectmen and had worked on the spearheading the Affordable Housing Trust Working Group that brought forth to town meeting the votes that created and provided this trustee with funding. And I'm here to continue to pursue strategic programs and tactical actions to improve housing affordability in Westboro. I'm going to go over sort by order of my screen. So Ed, why don't you go next? Oh, Ed, you have to come off mute.
There we go. That's a little better. I'm Ed Bain. We've lived in, my wife Jenna and I have lived in Westboro for about 40 years. We moved to Westboro because it was the only place we could afford right after we got married. So we found affordable housing here. I've been on the AFC Finance Committee, chair for 2 years. Also on the Charter Review Committee, chaired that for a while. That's how Alan and I got to know each other a bit. Reason really I got on is I've seen over the years how Westboro has become less affordable, particularly for seniors. So, my focus would be to how can we improve our senior housing as well as our workforce housing properties. Got to come off mute, Alan.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ed. Leah.
Hi, I'm Leah. I've lived here about 8 years on the Capital Expenditures Committee. That's the first committee that I ever joined in town. Sometimes I sit in with Sustainable Westboro, working with the tree committee that Eric Waite's trying to get going. And now this. So, it's important to me. I've struggled with housing affordability. I recently just bought a home in town, but Westboro is not an inexpensive place to live. Prices, I guess, everywhere are pretty much going up. But as a single mom, I know how important it is to have a safe area with a good school system for children and for myself as a female. So thank you.
think you said, I think I heard or read your lips saying Kate, but you're on mute now.
Yeah, thank you, Leah. Okay, Kate, thank you. It's early, man. It's early.
I know. So I'm Kate Storm. I've been in town for about 5.5 years, and I have served on the youth commission. That has been my first appointmentship before. And I've also been sitting in on the diversity and inclusion committee off and on for the last few years as well. And my interest in affordable housing dates back to, so I'm a social worker. I should say that my profession is as a social worker. And I have worked for Pine Street Inn and Hope Found, which are two homeless service organizations in downtown Boston, serving chronically homeless adults. And those, and my whole career as a social worker has really given me a lot of passion for affordable housing. But I've seen firsthand the impact of the housing first model, which is, if you give somebody a home, if you give adequate shelter, not just shelter, but a home, the stability of a home, housing stability, it can make a huge difference in someone's life. And so, so I've been professionally involved in the affordable housing world for about 15 years. And it's something that I have a lot of interest in. So I'm excited to be here and talking about this in Westboro.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kate. And Hank.
Yeah, my name is Hank Rauch. My wife and I have lived in Westboro for about 45 years. Westboro has been a good community for us to live in and raise our family. I've been involved with the affordable housing business mostly as a volunteer with Habitat for Humanity. I've been on the board of directors. I've done a lot of land acquisition and development work with Habitat. I'm currently on the finance committee in Westboro and have volunteered for a variety of other nonprofit activities in town over the years. Affordable housing, I think, is really important, and affordability in Westboro is a very serious issue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Hank, and welcome everyone. I will point out for those watching us live or later on recording that this trust has 5 to 7 members, so there are 2 additional seats available. So if others are interested in getting involved, that's great. Feel free to contact any one of us with questions or send a letter of interest to the selectman's office and see Ladora in that office and her email, and that email is available on the town website. I do want to quickly throw up our agenda for today and we'll walk through it really quickly. I'm just not clicking the right buttons here this morning. Okay. Okay, so looking at our agenda, we have a lot of ground to cover. Effectively, in order to start serving as a trust and operating as a trust, we need to file our declaration of trust with the Worcester County Registrar of Deeds. In order to do that, and that trust has to be in line with the town bylaw that was passed at town meeting in November. In order to do that, we have to then obviously be able to spend money and use town council services. So backing from filing of the declaration of trust to all the things we need in place to make that happen, our agenda is going to flow like this. First, there's a matter of housekeeping, which is we should authorize remote meeting attendance to comply with Mass General Law with respect to being able to hold meetings remotely. In order to spend money, we need a basic fiscal management policy in place. We will also, in order to use town council service, should have a process for using town council. And again, both of these proposed policies are high level and starting points. As we look at the operation of the trust, we can always expand and refine them as necessary. Will not necessary to get the declaration of trust filed. It is appropriate to have identified our chair, vice chair, and a secretary. So we'll discuss and we'll vote on that. and those roles take effect at the end of the meeting today. We'll then vote on filing the declaration of trust and the process for doing that. And then we can start looking forward to put some of the infrastructure that we'll need to operate in place. I shared information in the packet about options for website, email service, and online document storage, and where we can leverage town resources and where we might be best on our own, as well as we'll do an initial discussion about some project exploration and actions we might want to take. We'll have a few minutes if anyone has any issues or correspondence. I don't know if anyone's gotten any correspondence from the public yet, but we can talk about if we have, or any issues or concerns or ideas, any sort of new business. And then the goal is to be respectful of everyone's time and out by 10:30. So with that said, I will stop presenting and we'll go forward with the authorization for remote meeting attendance. So under Mass General Law, the Board of Selectmen has authorized the use of remote meetings or remote participation in meetings. But in order to do so, each committee or board needs to vote to do that. And so there's a motion in the packet. I don't know if there's any discussion or questions about this. Nope. Okay, so if someone would be willing to make the motion.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever received that packet, Alan. Sent out the same day?
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Yep, same question.
Oh my goodness. Hold on one second then. Let me. I will pull it up. Okay, so first. Okay, I will share my screen so you can see what's there. Okay, and while you take a quick look, I will re-forward the packet. Okay, so the packet is en route again to everyone. There's a PDF file, but this one is pretty straightforward. I don't know if people can read it on their screen, but remote attendance and participation in public meetings is allowed. I know that given that we're in full remote mode, this doesn't apply to us at the moment, but once we're able to meet in person, if one of us were unable to attend and wanted to participate remotely, we would need to have made this vote in advance. And so it's a housekeeping item that's just good to get up front and out of the way.
Okay, I'll make a motion. Yep. I move that pursuant to 940 CMR 29.10 and the Massachusetts Open Meeting Law, we authorize remote participation in meetings of this trust.
Second.
Okay, any further questions or discussion? Okay, then because we are meeting remote, we need to do a roll call vote. Leah?
Leah, yes. McLean, yes.
Kate?
Kate Storm, yes.
Hank?
Rauch, yes.
Ed?
Bain, yes.
Okay, and Edinburgh, yes. So that passes on a vote of 5-0-0, 5 being present. Okay, so the next item up is a process for authorizing expenditures. And again, I'll leave the screen up. I know you just got the packet. I'll walk through this very quickly. So in addition to expenditures on specific projects and initiatives, the trust has ongoing administrative and operating costs. And so these include some things we'll talk about today, such as IT services and a web presence, administrative services, legal or professional services. Our rules need to follow Mass General Law for spending for fiscal management, purchasing, et cetera, such as 30A. But we do need a basic policy in place, particularly if we're going to vote today to spend the money to file the declaration of trust. And so as proposed, the policy is as follows. And I'll walk through it very quickly. All financial activities would be conducted in accordance with Massachusetts general law and with the bylaws, policies, and procedures of the town of Westboro, per the finance director and the treasurer. The treasurer is our custodian of funds. The operating budget will draft, review, and approve by majority vote an annual operating budget covering operating revenues and expenditures outside of any specific project or timeline, project or initiative, excuse me. Projects would have their own project-specific budgets as well. And those would be created. Project budgets will be created as needed for each project. And if should Westboro adopt the Community Preservation Act, any funds received through the Community Preservation Committee or process would be accounted for as such. And we need to track those funds specifically as required under Mass General Law. Per Article 17 of the town bylaws, certain activities of ours will require a concurrence vote by the Board of Selectmen. That's any single action that commits 50% or more of our trust assets, or any action that brings the cumulative commitment of trust assets to 80% or more. And the process would be that if we have a transaction like that that hits one of those two thresholds, we, by majority vote, would request the vote from the Board of Selectmen, and then that action couldn't proceed until the Board of Selectmen made the concurrence vote. And we would end up as an agenda item on a Board of Selectmen meeting and present our case. Okay, consistent with Mass General Law Chapter 30B for expenditures, for our operating budget, expenditures under $5,000 do not require, there's a typo there, do not require quotes or bid and considered approved within the budget. Further approval would not be required. These are expenditures that are done as normal business. Expenditures between $5,000 and $24,999 require quotes, which is just going out and asking for quotes. It's not a formal closed sealed bid process. If they're a part of the operating budget, the proposal is that the chair or the chair's designee may prepare the purchasing statement and solicit quotes without a formal vote to do so by the Board of Trustees, but that quotes and purchase recommendations shall be presented to the trustees for selection and approval by majority vote. And so what this is saying is that like today, for example, if we decide to move forward with a website, because it's expected to be less than that $25,000, that the chair or who we appoint as a team to look into that could go ask, solicit quotes for that, come back with the 3 quotes and make a recommendation. But we wouldn't have to vote on the wording of the quote, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas expenditures of $25,000 or more do require a public bidding process. So in that situation, the trustees would have to review and vote to approve the bid documents as well as our evaluation process. And then any bid responses and the decision to purchase would also come back to the trustee for a vote. And so we're staggering the, adding more procedural steps for the trust that are in line with the state law. If there's a need for an expenditure that's not within the operating budget, the trustees must authorize the start of the process, including the purchase statements and request for quotes by majority vote. And so we wouldn't go out to quote or prepare bid documents without the authorization. And again, those documents and the responses would come back to the trustees for review and vote and action. The secretary will need to maintain a filing system to store and maintain records of all documents related to receipt and expenditure of funds, including but not limited to budget, estimates, quotes, requests for quote, proposals and bids, quotes, proposals, bid responses, invoices, warrants, and reports from the finance director. And so that's a high-level policy that establishes when we would vote on the expenditure process, predominantly for items in the operating budget. Any questions?
I mean, it seems to be in line, at least the Board of Selectmen concurrence is what we had presented at town meeting. I agree with obviously we're just following 30B for acquisition and purchasing policies. That makes sense. And I guess on the documentation, what help can or would the town staff provide, for those documents?
I mean, the finance department will keep records for their actions.
Right.
So if we vote to spend money, they'll keep a record of the vote, and they'll, keep a record of the quote, the quote we approved, to generate the purchasing document, and then the invoice and the payment against that invoice. For us, our responsibility comes in to say, hey, if we have to go out for quote on something, then, we need to keep, a copy of what we used when we asked for businesses to quote, the quote responses, our votes, et cetera. So it's a little more comprehensive.
Right.
And
I understand. I'm just wondering if the town, for other departments to have similar needs. I mean, obviously we have, school department, but we have other departments that go out to bid for various things.
right.
Is there a central repository for these kind of documents?
For the documents in the purchasing process, that's with the finance department.
But I'm saying, let's say we put together a request for bid for a major, let's say, renovation of a property.
Right. So the repository for that is our responsibility.
Okay. So I'm saying for other departments, do you know what they do?
I believe the departments maintain their own files. So, and we need to remember that we are, we're using, given that we're set up where the town treasurer is our custodian of funds.
Right.
And the finance department is willing to do the purchasing, mechanisms for us. We are a separate legal entity, and there might be a time where we do the purchasing ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's incumbent on us to, keep detailed records. It can't hurt.
Oh, no, I agree. I'm just asking about the, in order to, provide a store for these kind of documents, whether the town, whether they should be stored on servers, et cetera, et cetera.
So we'll talk about that later, because I've had conversations with Mark Stockton about that, and so we can get into the physical mechanism of that.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions about the fiscal management policy?
Just how do we make a motion when there is a typo?
The way the motion's written, I fixed the typos in real time in the document.
Oh, okay.
And so it would be, the motion would be that we approve the fiscal management policy as amended.
Okay.
So is there someone who would like to make that motion?
Off mute, Hank.
So moved.
Okay. And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I think Kate got in there first. So a roll call vote. Ed?
Bain, yes.
Hank?
Rauch, yes.
Kate?
Storm, yes.
And Leah?
McLean, yes.
Okay, and Edinburgh, yes. So this passes on a vote of 5-0, 5 being present. Okay, next up is a process for using town council. And again, my goal here today is an initial process so that we can actually request the use of town council to assist in filing the declaration of trust. And as an independent entity and the way the trust is set up, we can reimburse the town for these types of services. Now, in the long term, it might be benefit for us to have our own engagement agreement with the firm that provides town council or a different firm. And certainly for specific projects or needs, we might engage subject matter expertise counsel. But for something like this, the general day-to-day operations, Westborough's town council provides council services to dozens of affordable housing trusts and has an in-house expert. So the proposed policy is that the trust can engage and use town council for legal advice and services. The request will be made by our chair to the town manager. So by our chair or a chair's designee. When we want to use town council, it would be after a majority vote of the trustees, as we are committing resources and financial resources to do so. If there's an urgent need, something's come up, and we can't necessarily wait until we're able to schedule a meeting with a quorum, then the policy allows that the chair or any two trustees may determine that the town council services are needed and that the need cannot reasonably wait until either the next regularly scheduled meeting or the trust can schedule and hold an additional meeting. If the chair identifies the urgent need, the chair may request town council services without a vote of the trustees. If two trustees other than the chair identify the urgent need, the chair or the identifying trustee, should the chair refuse to act, shall request town council services without a vote. For any urgent need, the chair shall notify all trustees of the need and request as quickly as reasonable possible. So this allows that if something comes up and it's an emergency situation, we can engage council to act, so long as the trusts, all of us are notified immediately. If it's something that two of us believe is necessary and the chair doesn't agree, there's still a process to make it happen. Okay. And then obviously when requesting town services, we should ask for an estimate of fees and costs.
Ready for comments?
Yep, we're ready for comments.
Okay, obviously 1 and 2, I don't have issues with. Number 3, the only thing we may want to do is, should the chair refuse or be unable to act, like for example, they're incapacitated. So we don't need our own 25th Amendment, but just some wording to that effect, just to show that it's because refusal implies a proactive versus a,
right.
So I just say I would make an amendment that the chair, should the chair refuse or be unable to act. The second part is a question: should we put a dollar amount on number 3? I mean, normally council never can go that wild since it's professional services. So I don't know if it's necessary, but throwing it out.
Any thoughts?
I have no thoughts on the estimate, but I like your amendment to the chair be unable to act.
Okay. I'm not sure if we put an amount there. I'm not a limit. I'm not sure what that limit should be.
Well, I'm assuming that the chair would be aware of the normal hourly billing rate for the town council. And they just need to get an idea of how many hours, which I'm sure Christie or the council will say, hey, that don't expect to spend more than so many hours.
Yeah, it's more maybe at this point we now I guess the fiscal policies, as far as, because what this is doing is we're requesting to encumber or spend some monies.
Right.
So the fiscal policy, does that kick in?
The
Or
fiscal
how did-
policy still applies, so there's an implied limit of $5,000 here.
Right. So I was just thinking about that. So maybe that's, yeah. So we have sort of a $5,000 max before we need majority approval above that.
Okay.
Correct?
And one of, agreed, yes, that is correct. And
All right. Then I'm,
so,
Go ahead.
and the point of the urgent need is that, it's really for the unforeseen emergency circumstance, as well as the potential if there's a serious disagreement among the trustees, right? You need a mechanism that town council can be activated or council can be activated.
right. And it may be purely an issue of, oh, no, we're not authorized to do that, or
Right.
it's out of scope and you need a third party ruling.
And I'll request rates, things of that nature. I do know that the rates vary based on the individual attorney within the town council firm that works on the issue.
Mm-hmm.
And so it depends how, their level of seniority or position within the firm and specific expertise, right? So there's a rate for general town council. If a specialist is needed, that might be a different rate. But I can go get a sense of that.
Right. So I think that's fine. There's nothing else for me for 3. Number 4, once again, in conjunction with 3, says when requesting town council services, the chair or designee, I think should ask for an estimate. Obviously, if the chair is not able or refuses to act per 3, then 4 is the chair should be able to be overridden.
Right. So it'd be the chair, designee, or requesting trustee should ask.
I
So
think
if it's a situation where two trustees are
Right.
requesting services, they should ask as well.
that's fine. Just to add that. It just, otherwise it still puts the chair in sort of the almost a veto ability state.
Okay.
That's all I have for town council.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
I move the trust approve the policy for the use of town council as amended.
I second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Hank.
Rauch, yes.
Kate.
Storm, yes.
Leah.
McLean, yes.
Ed.
Bain, yes.
And Edinburgh, yes. So 505 being present. Okay. Okay, so next up is election or appointment of the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary. Is something to note as the Board of Selectmen serving as a trustee. By bylaw, I am not eligible to be the chair, and thereby shouldn't serve as the vice chair because I'm not in a position to ascend to that chair position. And so I don't know if anyone's thought about the role they'd like to play in the committee. I'm happy. I'll say I'm happy to take on the role of secretary for now to get us up and running and manage the files and the documentation, to help pull together the agendas and the information packets, meeting minutes, things of that nature, and would certainly work closely with the chair on helping get things prepared for our meetings and getting things organized and moving forward. So the chair is responsible for conducting the meetings and taking actions as voted on by the Board of Trustees. The vice chair, which also, in a sense, is intended to be, the chair-elect, who would ascend into the chair position, serves as chair if the chair is absent from a meeting, and would assist the chair and the secretary in meeting prep and actions as necessary.
And just to note, we these are short-term votes because we're only going up through the year. I guess just a couple of questions. Obviously, this is going to end per fiscal year.
Correct.
And I assume thereafter are these yearly appointments? So they're yearly. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is normal for
Right.
boards. Yeah.
And there's no, at this point, there's no requirement that these positions change on an annual basis.
No.
Is the draft of the committee handbook that the Board of Selectmen's working through suggests that people should not hold the position of chair for more than 2 consecutive years. That change of leadership is refreshing and healthy for committees. That's not to say you can't be 2 years on, a year off, and back on as chair. There's no limit in the total number of terms you can serve, but more about subsequent. So I guess I would ask if I'll put my name in for secretary, unless there's someone else who really likes doing the minutes. No, okay, that's fine.
Do we do this one at a time, or do we vote on a whole slate?
We could do it either way. The motions were written as a one at a time thing.
Oh, okay. Oh,
But we could also just do it as a, in one motion to make the 3 appointments. But is there someone interested in serving as chair or vice chair?
Wait a minute. I move to appoint Alan Edinburgh as secretary of the Westboro Affordable Housing Trust for a term ending June 30th, 2021. I want to lock that in before he changes his mind.
Thank you. I second that.
Okay. I don't object. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we could do that roll call vote. I'll start with you, Ed.
Ed, most definitely yes.
Hank?
Rauch, yes.
Kate?
Storm, yes.
And Leah?
McLean, yes.
Okay, so I'm now the secretary by a vote of 500. I volunteered, but I've been voluntold as well by being present. Okay.
Congratulations.
So is there someone interested in serving in the role as chair and vice chair?
I'd be willing to do either. And I would also, it sounds like, obviously Hank I've known for many years, and would also be a perfect candidate for either position, since he's held similar positions in the past on various boards. So, and he has, obviously, you can see from his seniority, has lots and lots and lots of experience.
I'd be willing to be the vice chair for a period of time, but I can't sign up to be the chair.
I would defer to those of you who've been on more sophisticated formal committees in town than I have. So I appreciate Hank's willingness to volunteer for the vice chair, and I appreciate, Ed, your willingness to do either. Leah, I don't know what your expertise is, but I would like to defer to either 3 of you.
I would love, it's a short term. I would love Ed, Hank, and Alan to lead the way, at least at the beginning of this trust, until we get some more footing, because they have the most experience. and they're awesome. So they do a really good job.
That is recorded, right?
It is, yes. And being broadcast live for the multitudes.
Yes.
So is there a motion?
All right.
Go for it, Kate.
Okay, I got to get to my, okay. I move to appoint Ed Bain as the chair of the Westboro Affordable Housing Trust for a term ending June 30th, 2021.
I second that.
Okay, any objections or discussions? Hearing none, roll call vote. Leah?
McLean, yes.
Kate?
Storm, yes.
Hank?
Rauch, yes.
Ed?
Bain, yes.
And Edinburgh, yes. So that passes on a vote of 5-0. 5 being present. Ed, you're officially our fearful leader.
Congratulations.
Okay. A motion for vice chair, please.
I move to appoint Henry Grouch as vice chair of the Westboro Affordable Housing Trust for a term ending June 30th, 2021.
I second.
Oh, wait, who seconded? Sorry.
Kate.
Kate.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Any objections or discussions? Hearing none, roll call vote. Leah?
McLean, yes.
Kate?
Storm, yes.
Hank?
Rauch, yes.
Ed?
Bain, yes.
And Edinburgh, yes. So Hank is our vice chair by a vote of 5-0, 5 being present. Okay, next is the filing of the Declaration of Trust. It's a discussion and vote. I don't know what happened, but hold on. The packet included the actual Declaration of Trust and warrant Article 10, which was the creation of General Town Bylaw Article 17. So the process we have for the filing of the Declaration of Trust would be that the Affordable Housing Trust Working Group prepared the Declaration of Trust. It was also codified in Article 17 of the General Town Bylaws, which was approved at special fall town meeting on November 7th of 2020. So we believe the Declaration of Trust is ready, but that would look to have a final review by town council for consistency.
Yes.
To make sure there's no difference between the bylaw and the difference between the bylaw and the actual Declaration of Trust. Knowing that the packet didn't make it to people in advance and you haven't necessarily had a chance to read the Declaration of Trust in Article 17, as much as I want to move forward by this, I understand if people aren't comfortable and want to take time to read, we could always call a quick meeting in the next week or two to vote on this specific issue. I'll put that out there.
Alan, the Declaration of Trust is identical to the bylaws, correct?
Yes, we prepared that it was identical to the bylaws. That's the version that was presented for fall town meeting.
So I'm guessing that the town council staff will make sure that that there's no typos or translation errors between the bylaw and the Declaration of Trust.
Correct.
That's typically what one of the things that attorney staff would do.
Yes.
So, and if we want to make changes to the Declaration of Trust, we have to go back to the town meeting? Because you have to change the bylaw to change the Declaration of Trust?
There are elements of the Declaration of Trust that are specific details that aren't specific in the bylaws. It's designed that way. But any material change to the bylaws, any material change to the Declaration of Trust would require a vote at town meeting.
Yeah.
to amend the bylaw. So anything around the structure, the powers, et cetera.
So again, we're given those understandings. I'm comfortable to move ahead the way we are with what we have going to town council, and given the town council approves to do the filing.
Yeah, I've read this before
Okay.
in preparation for town meeting, so I feel confident going forward with a vote now, but I also understand if others aren't.
Well, the rest of us were on the working committee, so we should be, I personally read it just as a member of the working committee.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Okay.
So
if we're all comfortable moving forward, that's awesome. There are 3 motions. I can put those up on the screen. Put the right one. Okay, so there are 3 motions involved. The first motion is to file. The second motion is to request the use of town council to do that work. And the third would be to authorize payment to reimburse the town for the filing fees, any incidental expenses, and the use of town council to do the review and do the filing. The filing fee itself is $255. And if I don't know if it's going to be paid by check or credit card, I believe if the town uses a credit card, there's a small processing fee involved of a couple dollars as well. And so do I have someone to make the motion to file the declaration of trust?
I move to file the declaration of trust as presented with the Worcester County Registry of Deeds, following a final review by town council for consistency with Article 17 of the town general bylaws.
I second.
Oh, hold on, my video wasn't on. Who seconded?
Kate.
Oh, thank you, Kate. I will learn your voice. I apologize. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. I'll start with Kate.
Storm, yes.
And Hank.
Rauch, yes.
Leah.
McLean, yes.
Ed.
Bain, yes.
And Edinburgh, yes. So it passes by a vote of 5-0, 5 being present. Do I have a motion to authorize the chair or chair's delegate to request via the town manager, the town council perform a final review of the declaration of trust for consistency with Article 17 of the town general bylaws?
So moved.
In a second?
Sure, I'll second.
Thank you, Kate. And any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Hank?
Rauch, yes.
Kate?
Storm, yes.
Leah?
McLean, yes.
Ed?
Bain, yes.
And Edinburgh, yes. So that passes on a vote of 5-0, 5 being present. Finally, need a motion to authorize payment to reimburse the town for filing fees, incidental expenses, and the use of town council for the final review and filing of the declaration of trust.
So moved.
Thank you, Kate. Second?
I second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Kate?
Storm, yes.
Leah?
McLean, yes.
Hank?
Rauch, yes.
Ed?
Bain, yes.
And Edinburgh, yes. So that passes on a vote of 5-0. 5 being present. Okay. So next on the agenda is, the heading is wrong in the document. It's about infrastructure for the trust. Can't find my.
Oh, instead of authorization of expenditures, you mean infrastructure?
Yes. Okay, so it was correct. I just, this is a copy paste error. It was correct in the agenda, so it is, I'll just put a temporary heading in. Okay, so one of the things that we need to do is create infrastructure that allows us to create, save, and share documents, communicate with the public, the town, and other boards and committees, maintain and preserve documents and communications for the public record. As such, the trust will need an email service with archive and e-discovery features, which would provide each trustee with an email address, calendar, and contacts, or the ability to forward email to a personal email account. That email service would also archive all incoming and outgoing email messages so that we could respond to any sort of freedom of information or documents requests. We should have an online file service to save, store, and share documents in a website. And so we can take these sort of one at a time. The town uses a service called Civic Plus as their website provider, and it's also used by a number of other committees. If we use Civic Plus, we can leverage the town's existing contract and infrastructure. And to get a sense of the benefit to us to do that, with Civic Plus, a new standalone website costs approximately $9,000 to create and has an annual service fee of $2,250. Looking at other committees that are using, I can pull these up in a new window. So the Economic Development Commission uses Civics Plus. This is a marketing site, so it doesn't have the look and feel of the town website, but it's the same infrastructure and has the same types of information about meetings, about the organization and board members and stuff as the town site does, but it's a little more marketing in nature. This type of site costs, let me get back to where we were. Here we go. Costs about $5,000 to build, and there's an annual hosting fee of $500. Another type of site that we can use leveraging the town's arrangement is the Central Mass Veteran Services. And you can see this has a look and feel, with the red banner, navigation on the left, information in the front, and then news, calendar, agendas, and minutes on the right. Very similar to the town's website. This type of website, sort of look and feel and content, typically costs between $2,000 and $2,500 to build, and there's a $500 a year fee for hosting. And so, the other option is that we could simply reach out to web developers we know. If it looks like it's going to be more than $5,000, we'd have to get multiple quotes to move forward. My personal preference would be to leverage the Civic Plus infrastructure that the town already has. What that means is if any of us have worked on other boards and committees and already have a login to the town website, that would work for this site as well. So we wouldn't have yet another email address and yet another account to remember passwords for. Well, we would work directly with Civic Plus. The town's IT department could provide support if we had questions or issues. And so there's resources available to help us. And particularly if we went with a site that looks and feels like the town, that, sort of the Central Mass Veteran Services site, the time it will take to get the site up and running is significantly reduced. And so I put that out for thoughts on, I can pull them up again and compare, but which type of site you think would be best for us?
Just my 2 cents. We're obviously a board within the town, albeit a separate legal if you will, legal entity. But we are serving the town directly. I think the EDC is really focused more on an outward promotion of the town for new companies coming in and to build the commercial and industrial presence in Westboro, or entice them to come to Westboro. So I think to start, I would agree with that. One other question I have, though, is we use Co-Urbanize during our working group, and I really liked it, the benefits it was. I don't know whether that would be another alternative.
The Co-Urbanize platform is really designed to be project-based.
That's what I thought.
Right, and so the issues, even at the project scale, it's really designed for engagement and discussion. You'll notice that the file structure was basically just a list of files at the bottom of the main information page. It wasn't really well organized. It's not really a place where you would save agendas and minutes, things of that nature. And so we could still use Co-Urbanize when we get involved in a project as far as the community outreach for the project. The way we ended up using Co-Urbanize, I did ask them that would run about $900 a month. Because remember, they provided the moderation for the forums.
Yes.
Right, and the identity validation and things of that nature. So I think we're best looking, if not at Civic Plus, looking at another website, more traditional website development. But are people comfortable using the Civic Plus platform?
Yes, I'm comfortable with using something that the town is already using for infrastructure. My concern between the two websites, the EDC website and the Central Mass Veteran Services websites, and my experience with other websites off of the town website, is that the EDC website allows for language translation, whereas Central Mass Veteran Service District does not. And so I'm wondering and there's other differences with other websites as well. So, so I'm wondering, and I am a firm believer that we need to have availability or accessibility for language translation. And so I would vote for, or I would be advising us to move to a website that has language translation accessibility.
Okay. And I believe, I'm not sure why it's not on the Central Mass Veteran Service site, but the town website.
Yes. So this
has the automatic translation as well. So
I don't know how well it's done. If it's using Google Translate, basically it provides a wide range of languages, depending upon the subject matter. Because I've used it before, it varies.
It's powered by Google Translate.
Right.
Yeah, it's not going to be a perfect system. But what I do see is, so when you click on the town website and then you say, like, I want to do this in Spanish. I'm just on the town website now. Yeah. And then I click on another department that has its own website. For example, rec.
Right. The recreation department uses a third-party website specifically designed for recreation departments. Right?
Okay. So, but I've noticed that it's not translatable. So I would like our website to be translatable via a very easy mechanism like Google Translate. And I recognize that it's not a perfect system, but I would really like us to have that accessibility on our website. And so that might be the difference between the cost too and what is presented.
Well, we should be able to have translation on the site even if we sort of pick the easier, the more standard look and feel of the Central Mass Veteran Service District or the town.
Okay.
Right,
That's all. Yeah.
Because here I'll pull up here's the town website, which is the same level of website as the veteran service, right, with the red bar, and then when you go into
Right.
when you go into
But the thing is so if you click on the town website, if you just go from town website and then you click on Spanish, and then you click on Central Mass Veteran Services District in Spanish, it brings you to an English website, and there's no way to translate the current website into Spanish.
right. So we will
So
make sure that as a requirement, it needs to have the translation service.
Yes.
I
Okay.
agree. One of the things is that we are, as we've seen from our the analysis we did in the working group, that we are diverse, particularly in South Asian, with about 14-15% of the population there. We are not highly representative of Latina representation,
Right.
or probably Portuguese.
And I agree that it absolutely has to have the translation. I mean, right now the school department is, translating all of their communications, I believe, into 5 languages.
Right.
Right. And so we should make sure that that's available as a requirement.
I agree.
Okay. But from a structure and cost, I've pulled the Central Mass is the same sort of structure as the town website. If we're comfortable with this structure, it's less expensive to build. If we wanted something that has a look and feel more of a marketing site, here's an example from the Economic Development Committee, and it's more expensive to build. So I guess I think we have consensus that using Civic Plus is the best way to go. And we would add on to the town's existing contract, and I believe we'd end up just reimbursing the town for this. The question is, which structure of site do we want? Do we want the marketing site or the more, I'll say, government-y site?
At this point in time, Alan, I'm not sure what it is we're going to sell. So it's really hard to give direction to someone developing a marketing website as to things like who's the target audience and what are the products, the typical kinds of marketing website questions. I would suggest we go with a simple, straightforward website with the expectation that in a period of time, we'll know a lot more and we'll expand the website to additional uses.
I think that's fair.
I agree. Do you need a motion on this, Alan, or?
Yeah, so the motion would be a motion that we budget and spend up to $2,500 for the creation of a website and $500 for the annual hosting of the website service.
I thought if we did the Civic Plus, it's 9,000?
No, that's if we did a brand new standalone site on our own without going through the town.
All right, if we go through the town,
Then if we go through the town, then it's $5,000 for a site that looks like the EDC. It's $2,500 for a site that looks like the town website and the Central Mass Veterans.
all right, I'm sorry, just let's assume Civic Plus, which
And so this is the look and feel. Here, I'll highlight it. This is the look and feel that I think we have consensus on. So it would be $2,500 to build and $500 for hosting.
Oh. All right, I'm confused. I thought we were going.
No, we don't. The whole point is that we don't want to do a standalone site because that's $9,000.
Ah, okay. Now I get it. I was misreading.
Okay, sorry.
It's a little confusing, but all the bullets are under Civic Plus. So each one of these is a Civic Plus option. There's nothing that's not a Civic Plus option.
Right, because
They're
if
the
we don't do
provider.
Civic Plus, we'd have to go out to, pick web developers and send out a request for quote.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Now I'm clear. So
Okay, so with that.
So I move. Yep,
Okay,
I move
go
we
ahead.
budget and spend up to $5,000 for the creation of a website and $500 for the annual website hosting service for 1 year.
second,
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call vote. Kate,
Storm, yes.
Leah,
McLean, yes.
Hank,
Rauch, yes.
Ed,
Bain, yes.
and Edinburgh, yes. The vote's 5-0, 5 being present, and that we are looking at the more basic government site, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. Next would be email storage, which would come with file sharing. The town has an email service which provides Microsoft Exchange, which is just email, calendar, and contact. Since the town employees use on-premise servers, Mark Stockman's feeling is that we should have our own solution for file storage. Looking at some of the options, and sort of his recommendation is that if we had our own service, such as an Office 365 account, that would give us email. It would also give us the ability to store and share files up in the cloud without having to have a different service for that. We can obtain Microsoft Office 365 is available under Mass State contract. For all of the accounts we need, it would be less than $700 per year. And then we would need a DNS service to manage our address on the internet, and the estimate there is about $100 per year. The town can help manage that service and provide support and integrate it as well as we get up and running. And so part of what would happen is, we might have, we'll have email addresses at, people can access us at town.westboro.mass.us. It would forward to Westboro AffordableHousingTrust.org or something like that. And we could have our own, vanity domain name for the website, WestboroHousingTrust.org or something similar that would then point to the Civic Plus site. So the town can do all of that integration for us.
Great.
As far as Office 365 and talking to Mark Stockman, he would facilitate the purchase from Dell, who is the largest provider on the state contract and has the lowest pricing.
Great.
Okay.
So this would, okay, when we talk about email, generally what's done is on the town website, if you go to a department or a board, there's a list of members.
Correct.
If the member wishes to receive emails, you click on that person's name, and up comes it's basically a standard form of sort of it doesn't go directly to them. It goes via, and I don't know what's behind the scenes, whether it's 365 or whatever, but basically somebody fills out a form with their question or issue, et cetera. And then that gets forwarded to whatever address, like, I'm ed@edbain.com, that gets forwarded to my email address, even though nobody sees that. So I'm just trying to understand.
Correct. But at times we may need to give people our email address if we're
Right.
communicating on trust business. And we should
Right.
keep our trust work. Because of open meeting laws, you don't want to use personal email addresses. So, if one of us is communicating, for example, with a developer about a potential project, we'd want all of those emails to go to and from an email address that belongs to the trust so that the records are maintained.
Right.
And so having an Office 365 account, we don't need the fanciest, we need the web email service.
Yep.
That would give us the ability, if we need to send and receive emails from a trust account. Behind the scenes, those could still be forwarded to a personal account to make it easier to know when you have something or for day-to-day business type stuff. And that also gives us access to OneDrive and SharePoint so that we can keep files in a central location. So, for example, the Board of Selectmen, our email address, our emails are either forwarded to personal emails or are on the hosted Exchange side of the town service, but then we're using Dropbox right, for file sharing. And the challenge with that, of course, is I have 2 logins, right, instead of 1. It'd be things are a lot simple it's a lot easier to share if access to the file is the same as the email address you're using to share the information.
Wish we were all in Google.
So we could, it's just more expensive.
For now,
go ahead, Ed, I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying for now, I think we need to adopt something that is, once again, easy to set up, is known amongst our IT staff, i.e. Mark. And the price seems to be good. So I would go with I'll use the word proposal or option for the email and files is, using Office 365.
Okay. And then the town can do our DNS service for us.
Yep.
Individual domains don't cost $100 per year, but we'll probably want to secure multiple so that we have typos, right? So if we end up being westborohousingtrust.org and someone types in .com, we still want it to get to us.
Right.
For both those domains. So the estimate there's $100 per year. So do I have a motion to budget and spend up to $800 for email, file storage and sharing services, and DNS services covering 1 year of service?
So moved.
So second.
Great. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Ed?
Bain, yes.
Hank?
Rauch, yes.
Leah?
McLean, yes.
And Kate?
Storm, yes.
Okay, and Edinburgh, yes. So a vote of 5 being present. Okay. Then the last item here was for general technology support services. The town Information Services Department is capable of integrating the trust with the town services. They can provide us with occasional support services if we have problems. I sort of put out there that maybe we want to budget some money towards this just in case we need it. I'm not sure we will. But if we need any assistance getting started, it covers we'll need a little bit of their time to get things up and running. So we want to cover that and any other types of support requests. And so it would be, I'll make this motion. I move we budget $500 towards IT support services through June 30th of 2021.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on this one? Okay, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ed?
Bain, yes.
Leah?
McLean, yes.
Hank?
Rauch, yes.
And Kate?
Storm, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So that's an Edinburgh yes, so a vote of 500, 5 being present. And I think we're back on track time-wise, which is good. Okay, so the next item, as we head to the tail end of the meeting, I see Hank standing up, stretching his legs. Not a bad idea. Okay, is some initial project exploration. Work we can start while the physical mechanism of filing the declaration of trust goes into effect. So once the declaration of trust is filed, we can formally allocate resources to projects. In the interim, we can begin to explore ideas and projects. And a couple of things have come to me since approval. One, there's been a number of there's been some discussion about some form of emergency housing or emergency rental assistance. Now, knowing that the mission of the trust is longer term in nature, and housing assistance is, specifically due to the pandemic, is an immediate need, it's something I think we should discuss. I will note that there are many housing trusts in the state now who are running or participating in emergency rental assistance programs for low-income families. Most of those programs, I did a quick scan of the database from the Mass Housing Partnership. Most are for families at 80% or below of area median income. They're limited in duration to 2 or 3 months of rental assistance. And almost all of the trusts are either managing the process with funds from other sources, such as nonprofits or other government entities, or they are, the trust is matching funds provided from other sources. And so I'm not suggesting that we vote to do this or not do this today. My proposal is that a few of us as a team or an informal working group do a little bit of work between now and our next meeting to explore the need, potential funding sources, and operating resources to provide emergency rental assistance, so we have enough information that we can decide if it's something we want to do or be involved with. And again, it's not looking at how other trusts are doing it. Some of the trusts are providing the mechanism to do it, but aren't providing funding. Some trusts are providing some of the funding from it. But I'm, that's sort of my view, my take on it. We believe there's a need. The COVID-19 relief fund that the town organized with the Rotary Club as the custodian of funds has been providing ad hoc assistance to individual families, and some of that has been for rent or utility payments. A lot of that's been through some of the religious institutions, social service committees, and the Kirkside Foundation have sort of been managing that effort. So we believe there's some need. I'm not sure of the scope of the need. I think we can look into that a little bit more. But the trust could provide some organization and facilitation and potentially funds. To give a sense of the amount of funding, many of the programs, and there are links here in the packet that we can all review, we're talking, potential trust funds, in the 10 to, in the $20,000 to $30,000 range if we do a matching with private funds, or if we contribute funds at all. Most of the programs out there are in the total dollars in the $50,000 to $100,000 range. And it appears the way most of them are working is they do initial call for applicants, and if there are more applicants than there are funds available, they do a lottery. If not, they approve those, and then from that point on, it's first come, first served till the funds expire. So I'm interested in people's thoughts on this.
So my understanding that if we are to do it, our maximum would be 10 to 20,000 for a match.
That's the range I'm seeing some of the other trusts doing. There are some programs where the trusts are involved, but they're not actually, the trust is dealing with the administrative costs, and the actual funds being used for assistance are coming from other government agencies or private sources.
There's a lot of support out there. So I'm hesitant to use trust funds for that. Using 10 to 20,000 isn't a lot. So, you know, that's fairly comfortable range, but, or using it for administrative costs to help people get the funds they need. As long as there's a strong limit, I think it's a nice thing to get into. But anything, you know, well over 10 to 20, I think it could become very exhaustive.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly support folks investigating what the problem, you know, what the magnitude of the need is, and giving us some input on the existing structures to satisfy the need, and identifying some gaps. And when we understand the need and the existing structures and the gaps, we can think about whether we have the resources to help fill the gap.
Okay. Kate?
I really like this idea of moving forward with trying to figure out if this is something that the Housing Trust can help with. And so I definitely, so I actually moved to create a working group charged with determining the feasibility and recommending a structure for a COVID-19 emergency housing assistance program.
Okay.
I would, as your newly elected chair, I think a good approach might be for Kate to head up, you know, a working group, a subcommittee with whoever her other choice is, and I would suggest it be Alan, but that's up to her, to investigate this so that we can dig into it a little bit more and see how it would affect or be implemented within Westboro. And we'll talk about our next meeting, which I would suggest we do in a month, to come back to this and then act on any recommendations that Kate and team would do.
Okay. I'm willing to help and work with Kate on this. So Ed, was that a second?
Well, it was yeah, I guess I don't know if it's a formal motion. I guess it's.
I'm not sure we actually need a formal motion.
I think we do. I think we just need a general agreement, as long as we don't have any opposition, that we move forward that way. So just to create a sub, you know, committee working group headed by Kate under her direction and leadership to investigate this and then come back with recommendations to what we should or shouldn't do, and if we should do something, to what are our options, and then we can decide how much we want to commit in at least financial resources. Would you be willing to do that, Kate?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Cool. And so we'll get that effort going. The second was, I don't know if any of the other trustees have started hearing from people, but I've received a number of emails and phone calls with people saying, you know, ooh, affordable housing. What about this property? What about that property? What type of projects are you guys thinking of? So I thought it might be good. And again, I'm not sure we actually need a formal motion and vote here, but if a few of us took on an effort to sort of collect those ideas and start exploring and thinking about the types of projects and exploring some near-term opportunities. We actually thought we were going to have one There's a property, I don't know if you watched the Board of Selectmen's meeting Tuesday evening, but the Board of Selectmen approved a local initiative program certificate for a residence at 28 Indian Pond Road. That property has been affordable since it was constructed and was up for sale, and the nature of the affordability deed and the deed restrictions at the time that property was created left open an opportunity where that property might have reverted to market rate. But fortunately, fortunately, things went in a way that the seller and DHCD were able to find a qualified buyer. So the property will stay affordable and now has the new affordability rider on the deed that keeps the property affordable in perpetuity, as opposed to having any sort of limits on that. If that had not happened, we would have had an agenda item to discuss whether or not, as a housing trust, we wanted to exercise the town's right of first refusal to acquire the property and then resell it as affordable. But since things have worked out, we don't need to get involved. So that property is out there, and it's being sold, and it will remain affordable in perpetuity. But there are other properties and ideas that people are coming with. So I'm wondering who might want to start collecting those and thinking about potential projects and ideas.
Alan, is Hank, I'm willing to start creating an inventory of possible projects and do some initial due diligence to see what's out there. Talk to the housing authority, talk to the housing partnership, talk to the town planner, get them to kind of, some of the existing channels, and get them to kind of provide us with some data and information.
Okay, cool. And I can send you, I'm happy to send you a list of the properties that have been shared with me.
That'd be great.
I literally had someone call me from their car saying, I was just driving by this house and I think it would be great if it could be affordable.
I worked with Hank. What I would like to do is work with Hank. I worked with Jonathan Steinberg, our chief assessor, when we were looking at all the variety of properties within Westboro, i.e. residential at the, home ownership, individual, properties, apartments, condos, etc., and as well as open land. So I think what would be a good, target, Hank, would be to try to create a list of what do we have on our inventory for affordable housing, just to get a consistent list so we understand, as well as he also provided residential development property. So I would like to, under Hank's leadership, support him in creating that, if you will, database, whatever we define it to be, so that we all understand sort of the lay of the land, as it were.
Okay, great. So Hank and Ed will start working on that. And so it's 10:30, so very quickly, does anyone have any other issues or correspondence that they need to address today? Okay, hearing none. A couple of quick notes. The Mass Housing Partnership has been doing a series of webcasts for affordable housing trusts. The second one, which was a couple weeks ago, was fascinating because it was about the financing and what it means to partner with a private developer and how the financials have to work for a project to be successful and viable. And so the recording is on the website. They have, if people don't have the links, let me know. I'll forward the links. They've got 2 upcoming over the next couple weeks as well. They're doing this virtually. They used to have a one-day conference for housing trusts, so they're doing it over a series of weeks as virtual. The next is, you know,
The 27th is the next one.
is the 27th. Okay.
Next Wednesday, or next Wednesday.
Wednesday. Okay.
And I did find that some of them do get into the weeds a bit, as opposed to being primer kinds of programs. I wish they would do primer programs for new committees, but you can tune in, and Alan, if you want to send out, there's one on the 27th and one on the 3rd of February.
Okay, I'll send out. I can send out links to everyone.
At least tune in, and if you feel it's relevant, that's fine.
Or watch the recording if you can't make it live. Although I think the Q&A is pretty good. Would it be helpful to see if Shelley Gehrig from MHP might join us at a upcoming meeting and give us a primer?
Definitely, I definitely think so.
Okay.
Right.
So Ed, I can work with you. We can extend that invite.
Yeah, Shelley is very good. She did a presentation at it was over a year ago now, right? Or a year ago this month.
A year ago this month. Yeah, 12 months ago. Okay. And then my last issue would be scheduling of our next meeting. By town bylaw, we're supposed to meet quarterly. I think we have enough to do at this point, getting up and running, that it might be good to have, as Ed suggested, a meeting in the next 4 weeks or so. So if we're agreement on that, we'll look for a time and we'll schedule that.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Let me just bringing up calendar.
We can do it by email after the meeting. I know it's 10:30 and
Yeah, it'd be much better to do it by email after the meeting.
All right, I will send out an email with what might make sense. Give me 1 second here. If we try to do it on Thursday mornings, is that a good start for people? Hello?
As good as any.
It works for me.
Okay.
I think an 8:30 and I'll let people respond to what they feel is good. I don't know how many people are morning people and how many are not. So I will send out first of all, I'll just send out a email asking people what they feel comfortable with on a couple of dates, and then we'll try to sort that down. But I think it would be good to try to meet, in the next month with us coming back with the findings we have. I mean,
okay.
With Kate and you, Alan, making recommendations on COVID housing support, if you will, and Hank and I on at least progress and any data we've collected or summary data we've collected as far as current housing and availability of new housing per, in the affordable range. All right.
Any other issues or correspondence?
Just for these working groups, we need to be careful that if there's a quorum of trustees, you have to post the meeting before you hold it.
Correct.
You've got to be aware of open meeting law. So if there's 2 people, you don't have a quorum. But if you get more than 2, you got a quorum and you need to post it.
Right.
Understood.
Thank you.
Okay, great. On that note, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second.
Second. I'll second.
Okay. Kate beat you there, Leah. So Kate seconded. So roll call vote. Leah?
McLean, yes.
Kate?
Storm, yes.
Hank?
Rauch, yes.
Ed?
Bain, yes.
And Edinburgh, yes. So thank you, everyone, for a great first meeting. We covered a lot of ground. We are adjourned. And thank you, Westboro TV.
Thanks, Aiden.
Thank you.